shall we just do a little introduction? So do you just want to maybe talk a little bit about yourself and your filmmaking kind of journey
Yeah,
to start
sure.
with?
Yeah, I'm a filmmaker, writer, director, but I produce now as well. I started off doing like music videos, skateboard films, graffiti films. Yeah, just stuff about sort of like just urban culture stuff that was around me really. And then eventually got into doing like drama and like feature films and TV drama and stuff like that. So yeah, that's basically sort of my journey in like in a short space of time.
Cool. And do you maybe want to talk about, because that was the first time I saw that film and I thought it was amazing. Do you maybe want to talk a little bit about the process of making Thinking Out Loud and maybe some of your like creative decisions to have that kind of spoken word over the top?
Yeah, it was like a collaboration. I know the lead actor really well. He's an artist as well, so he came to me and he was like, "Yeah, I saw one of your films, kind of like similar setting," and he was like, "Look, I really want to do like a film that's kind of, you know, that shows kind of like my past lifestyle." So I was like, "Yeah, let's," and then we just sat down in a room, we just collaborated, and we just wanted to show like a different aspect of sort of like, I guess in inverted commas, like gang culture, because I think like you never really see that element of it. You see kind of like a very much glamorized side where people like shooting each other and stabbing each other, and like that does happen, but there is definitely another side, like the more human side to it. And then we really wanted to make it kind of quite well, on my side I really wanted to make it very poetic in a sense, almost like you were watching a slice of life. That's kind of very real, almost kind of a documentary aesthetic, but almost like just like a realism to it as well. So that was the decision I sort of made on that one.
And as well, another thing that was like interesting about it was that like that the kind of like masculinity element of men not being able to talk, and then it being very interesting, like where you see him, the character isn't speaking, but then you've got his thoughts kind of talking. Did that kind of come into your thinking a little bit, like tied into the way that men don't talk?
100%. That was the whole concept of it. It was like that's why it's called like thinking out loud. So you kind of like hear his whole thought process throughout that whole journey, where he's not necessarily like communicating with, I guess, his work colleagues, and that's why the system's gone wrong. Why he's not communicating with his wife. The only one he's really communicating with is his kid, which he kind of doesn't really understand him, which is the irony behind it. Even though he does, but in a effect, he talks about more things to his kid and have a more understanding with him than he has with any of the other characters. So yeah, we just wanted to sort of like also touch upon like a lot of, I want to call it like an introvert, like men and masculinity being quite an introverted kind of aspect. But I wanted to sort of pinpoint it to it and sort of lean a little bit on sort of like mental illness without it being like kind of out there, you know,
like obvious.
Too obvious, yeah, as well.
A bit of the filmmaker's subtleties.
Yeah, it's very subtle in that one.
Yeah. So also, if at any point anyone from the audience has any questions, just raise a hand. So yeah, the title of this event is "How do we support the next generation of BME filmmakers?" And of course, not expecting you to have all the answers. It's a very complicated topic and issue, but I think, you know, the work you've done and your journey is very inspiring to others, and I think sometimes just talking about the process of how you got to where you are is a very helpful way of mapping out how other aspiring filmmakers can do their thing too. So yeah, maybe let's maybe start at the beginning. So like, was there a moment in your childhood or whatever when you kind of decided you wanted to be a filmmaker?
I always had like a massive interest to it. I think I watched a few films when I was a kid and sort of inspired me. I think one of them was probably Lehane. It's like a French film. It's a classic film. It's probably like the first time that I actually saw like a mixture of like different communities in like one neighborhood, and captured on screen like amazingly well. Like a Jewish character, like African character, Arabic character. That was literally my neighborhood. So I was just like, wow, this is a film that sort of is like my neighborhood. not barring the riots and stuff. But yeah, it was like something that kind of inspired me to be like, okay, I can tell stories. That's what's going on around me. Like similar things that they were going through, me and my friends were going through as well, especially with the police and, you know, just, I guess, like local government and stuff like that. It was kind of very reflective at the time. And yeah, I sort of like, yeah, when I was like really young, and I was like, wow, this is like kind of like mad. And it's only because like my grandma, she was like from like a French and Italian background, so she used to let me watch a lot of I guess European films. So there was a few films like that that sort of were very inspiring.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Lehane's a great film. And it's interesting that that you, like you referenced a French film there, because would you say now you know, since like, for me anyway, my generation, I'd say probably kidulthood was probably one of the first things to show like kind of urban street culture in the UK, or whatever you want to call it. Did you find that, I think was Lehane a little bit before kidulthood, or was it?
I guess it's probably, yeah, that was
when
like...
when you were growing up, did you feel like an absence of that representation of...
Yeah, I think yeah, when we were growing up, I think it was just like kidulthood. I think there was one called Bullet Boy as well, as a film, but there wasn't like much representation in terms of like, I guess, Indian or Arabic or like black films sort of being made. I can't even name an Arabic sort of British film actually, so I don't think there is one. But yeah, there was like a lack of sort of representation on screen, and I was just like sort of making little films anyway without me realizing I was becoming a filmmaker. So I was just like, had a little camera and was just capturing. But yeah, I think at the time there wasn't, and I think yeah, Lehane was like a French film, and like Kidulthood, of course, that was like very inspiring as well. And then yeah, I think that was it really.
Do you remember your first film
that I made?
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember it. I used to, we basically used to do like a lot of graffiti, like in a graffiti sort of crew, and I just like sort of filmed us literally just on the tracks, like just spraying up the tracks, and we used to like surf trains. It's really dangerous. I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah, we used to surf trains, and I used to just captured like loads of those elements, and it was like a day in the life of us, sort of like just like bombing London sort of thing. That was literally the first one, and I think I made another one about us sort of skating and stuff, and that was it.
Cool. And what's the time period between you making that film and Thinking Out Loud?
I don't know, when I was a kid, probably about, I'd say like about maybe 12 years, 15 years, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a long time, because it's weird. I didn't really get into doing anything like I would call that sort of documentary type film making when I was like capturing my friends and stuff, and then I kind of went in a period of like just doing like music videos, like by accident. So I'd done like a skateboard film. An artist saw it, or producer saw it, and then he was just like, "Oh, can you do one for this band?" And I didn't really listen to like indie music like that. And then I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I just like literally called one of my boys and I said, "Look, I've got." I shouldn't really saying this to you, but like, yeah, I just literally paid him by weed, innit? And I said, like, do you wanna just like, do you wanna do this thing? And then he was like, yeah, sure. And now he's a massive skater. I think he's like represented by YSL and like really big sort of top Italian brands now. But yeah, he just done like loads of skating for me, and then we captured around London on a 5D, or like a DSLR camera or something. I can't remember. It was like really like cheap camera. It was a terrible camera, but it looked really good actually. I was pleased with that. And then I think that was like one of my first sort of promo type films.
Cool. And on the topic of funding films, how did you get the funding for Thinking Out Loud? I assume it was a bit different.
Yeah, that was different. It was the artist. He had the indie label, so he actually like funded that, and then his partner. what was it? His partner's dad like randomly owns like this massive like production house, so we got a lot of their cameras and the lighting for free. Okay. So it kind of really helped us out, to be fair, sort of making like thinking out loud.
Okay, cool. And obviously you've done what kind of every young filmmaker aspires to do eventually, and that's make a feature film. So do you maybe want to talk a little bit about, for those who don't know, Sheridan, he's got a feature film. Is it still on Netflix? It was.
Yeah, it's on Amazon now.
It's on Amazon now, called The Weekend. And would you maybe like to talk a little bit about the process of what led to that and how important maybe like short films were in the build up to getting something like that?
Yeah, it was. I think just before it, I made a short film called Wasteman Diaries, and it went viral. Loads of people started watching it. I think it sort of really resonated with a lot of people, and like I've approached like the BFI. I was like, oh, can you fund this film? And I gave them my production plan, and they were just going, oh, this is impossible to make. No, we're not going to fund you. So I was like, okay, cool. And then beg, borrowed, steal to sort of make that film happen. We got like some private investment to make it, and we made it sort of like really sort of low budget and got like great talent onto it. I think everyone who actually acted in it has gone into do like amazing things, like literally BAFTA nominated. So like all the talent they haven't done, they didn't do a feature film before. I don't think anyone on that production actually done a feature film before. So it's quite incredible. Like we actually sort of made a feature film, to be fair. We made that one.
You got like Purcell, Ascot, and
Purcell,
people from MANDEM on the wall, wasn't it? So
yeah.
How was that? How was it finding cast for that?
Yeah, I think they were kind of local to us, and then like we approached them and we thought they'll be great because it's about three boys. They already had a chemistry. It wasn't that type of film that I wanted to create a chemistry, because that's sometimes really difficult to get and make it feel authentic. And they got like natural comedy as well. They're like, I would say they're very good comedic actors, and that's very rare for like young people to grasp. It's hard enough getting like great young actors, but when you great young comedic actors, I always say it's sometimes nearly impossible, especially the type of comedy I wanted to sort of represent in that film. We got lucky with that, I think. Cool. Great talent.
And so you kind of got private funding, and could you reveal like what the budget was for it, just out of interest?
I believe like the funding on that one was around about 250K, like the production budget.
Okay, cool. And how do you kind of go about like getting that specifically? Is it like you said you kind of went to the BFI and
Yeah. I think like afterwards we went to the BFI to release the film, and then they finally gave. I think it's a case of like having a really good production treatment, and something that it really sort of like you can. It can be seen as that it has a commercial value and it has like an audience to that film. And I feel like the BFI saw that, and plus it was like not a normal film. It was kind of like very much a BAME comedic film, like an urban film that really sort of like lit the eyes up. So I think it was a mixture between, it was like sort of one of its kind at the time, and then afterwards like they could really see like potential into like putting up on their platforms as well. So yeah.
Nice. And in terms of like distribution, like for filmmakers who don't know too much about how films get distributed, like how did you work out the distribution for that film?
I was always quite good at like creating buzzes like around like my promos and like commercials. 'Cause I used to do like online commercials. I knew how to make them become viral. So I used like similar techniques with my film, and I thought, if I create enough buzz, then I know I could get like a Netflix deal. I told everyone before I was making it, I said, I'm going to put this on Netflix. And everyone was like, shut up. I was like, trust me, I'm going to put it on Netflix. And then, just created a buzz around it, went to Netflix. And I said to them, I was like, look, this is a film that you haven't got. You haven't got a black comedy from this year. Like, what is your black comedy? You haven't got one. So, and they were like, oh, it's true. So, so like, it was an easy sell. And I think like when you're making like films, I think it's like literally like really thinking outside the box, like trying to make something that's not there, and something as well that sort of caters to an audience that you sort of know as well. I think that's very important in sort of like filmmaking and sort of making your own films.
Yeah, for sure. And what kind of like challenges came up in your kind of whole journey, but maybe more specifically with the weekend?
Yeah, I think that was like very challenging. I think because it was like not the actual production. I think the production wasn't too bad. I think it was sort of that element of what you're gonna do when it's finished to distribution. Like I didn't actually know, but I just said to everyone, "Oh, I do know," and I literally learned along the way. So it was kind of like sort of reading up on it. I literally sort of went back to school and just like analysed everything in terms of like how to distribute a film. Everything from like putting it into a cinema to like selling it on DVD to like trying to get like a platform deal. I literally learned about doing platform deals because I think at the time it was quite a new thing to do a deal with like platforms like Netflix, Amazon, Stars, you know. But now it's sort of like that's the readily thing to do.
Cool.
So, yeah.
And oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
So you talked about kind of knowing the techniques of that sort of building up the hype.
Yeah.
Wow, can you elaborate on that? Because for like a group of young writers who want to get out there, that's
okay.
Very, very useful. So,
what in terms of like creating hype with productions that's just got made or sort of before?
Well, both, I guess, because obviously, as somebody, like I said, as a writer, that is a big thing that a lot of people don't really know. So when it comes to sort of building that platform and saying, all right, I want to build something, how do you go, like, what kind of techniques would you use to go about doing that?
Yeah, I think it's a case of like because I used to sort of work quite a lot with sort of musicians and stuff like that. I would like sort of align myself with like musicians who I knew or grew up with, and then you know get them to cameo in things that I did because they already had an audience, or say you know like certain sort of actor, celebrity people that I knew who I could like attach to it. I'll say like look, or just reach out to them. Some people I just reached out to, and say like look, like read the script, can I have a meeting? I know it sounds really like crazy, but don't feel like ashamed to reach out to people as well. Like the worst thing that could happen to you is say no. Like some people that I reached out to, they actually answered my phone and make me for a coffee. I remember I went to LA and I literally reached out to 50 Cent and I thought, oh, he's not going to turn up. And he met me for a coffee. I was like, wow, you actually met me for like a drink and a coffee. That's big. So that was like don't feel ashamed to like not reach out to people. Like if you got a project that you think is like hot, or you know that's like a really good script and you believe in it, like literally just say like, look, I've got this amazing idea. I think you'd be perfect for it. Like just come and meet me. I think that's like one element. I think another element is like thinking, okay, say for instance you're making like a sports film. There might be a platform for like ice skaters, or like a fishing film. There might be a massive platform for like fishermen who's you know their reach is like 1.5 million. Like align yourself with that platform, because like online's like it's massive now. You know, like say to them like, why don't you sponsor me to write a film for your platform? We could do a feature film about fishing. You can give me budget, or you can give me the reach to push out my story. Like just trying to think outside the box to your audiences and the stories that you're writing. You know, I would say like that's very much a case of like associating yourself with a platform with your scripts. I'm not saying these are the right things to do, but it's something that, you know, it makes you kind of like different as well, because there might not be a fishing film, or there might not be an ice skating film, and then that platform is definitely not pushed out an ice skating film or a fishing film. So that's another way. Or for instance, like we're just releasing a project at the moment with like GRM. That's like a massive music-based platform. You know, we know that's going to have like a massive reach. It's going to at least reach 2.5 million people. So it makes sense to put it alongside that platform so they can push it out, and they're going to promote it, and also some of the artists who are associated with it might promote it as well. So like, yeah, just try and think outside the box of like your stories, and try and let your stories have like an audience as well, or like an audience that you know very well, or you know how to like sort of reach, where it be like a black audience, or a fishing audience, or you know an ice skating audience, and like don't be afraid to like reach out to celebrities and like actors or like heroes that you might be good at sort of associating with the story that you're making.
Thank you for the question. Any more for the time being? All right.
Hi, thanks very much for showing us the film. I was just wondering, as a white writer, how much do you reckon I should be trying to put diversity into my material, and when should I avoid writing about experiences and voices that are outside my own?
I know. I remember I spoke to this this writer. I think he wrote Gladiator, and then he was talking to me, and he was like saying to me, look, like just write about what you know really well, and then I'm sure like everyone has like a diverse group of friends, or they might not, but I think like you shouldn't like feel restricted about writing about other communities or like other characters that are outside your like social group. I think that's like a very important thing to like integrate it, because that's natural, like having diversity around you. I think it's really important. Like I hate when people get slammed for like say this like Arabic writer who's writing about a black woman. Why can't you write about a black woman? Like he knows black women, so let him write about a black woman. Don't slam him for doing it. Like it doesn't make sense. And I feel like a lot of writers do get slammed for it. Like for what does he know about it? Like what do you know about it? Do you know what I mean? Like let people express it. It's an art form at the end of the day. There's no right or wrong answer with like making characters and creating characters. That's the way you see it. You're going to see it differently from like everyone else sees it. So never feel restricted. Like I feel there's no right or wrong answer of it. Just feel comfortable about writing it. It's a story at the end of the day.
I think I would just add on to that you're probably going to get a better response the more research and respect that you give to the subject matter that you want to tell. So yeah, it's about,
balance
if an Arabic man or whatever has done the research.
100%.
Yeah. And it's funny actually. I literally just made a short film about white writers writing black stories. So I'm going to send you that because you might like it. Any more questions? Do you want to lob your mic over? Okay, we got one over here.
I was going to say, yeah, jumping off that, because with regards to that, do you not find that there'd be a major issue with regards to actual representation? So if we were looking at the representation of BME people in film, it doesn't generally tend to be the best image. And I find in society that also perpetuates it as to how we tend to get viewed by other communities. So do you not find if a white person was to write about a person of color, that in itself would almost be toxic rather than maybe bringing a person of color onto the set with them?
I believe like certain subjects and certain stories are very, very, very sensitive. And I feel like, yeah, that can be kind of very toxic. But I think the major issue isn't about the writers. I think it comes above that, which is the executives who are choosing who is making these films and then who is getting commissioned to create these stories. And I believe like they're not implementing enough diversity within that type of filmmaking, especially stories of like, black culture, and also, sensitive stories, say like, in the war about the Nazis, and, like there's very sensitive stories that aren't really represented in the right way. And I think it is not to do with the actual writers themselves, but it's the executives that are choosing the writers. And I feel like there's not enough diversity within the executives who are choosing and commissioning, who don't understand what it is to be black, what it doesn't understand to be BAME, who doesn't understand to be from a different place. So I don't really feel like it is to do with the actual writers themselves. I think it's like a bigger problem.
It's interesting you say that, because obviously that's we're talking about like the power dynamics of our world, really, and obviously the executives hold all the money, so that's why they get to pull the strings. Any other questions? Yeah. You lot are doing my job for me. Thank you.
So in relation to, I think the question for me, I would feel that considering how much we're trying to get so many people, like trying to get, a seat at the table, and the fact that we're even looking at someone like Tyler Perry and telling him that he shouldn't be writing any stories about black women, we need to really be thinking about the people. There's nothing wrong with people as an author to have a freedom of expression, and we can't stop you from that. But then it's the most important thing to think about is now what is it that we're saying with the films that are being made. But aside from that, that was my personal opinion. We can discuss that later. I wanted to ask the question on how, as the images that we see of ourselves as Black and ethnic minorities within TV, and even with the example that you gave and what you've done before with The Weeknd, how do we move away from just having the urban films? How do we get more films that show us going to space, doing other things in the UK, not just only, you know, in America?
Yeah, I think it again. It really lies with, you know, the execs that are empowering sort of TV and film. Like, I think I was just reading like a percentage of like Black people behind the camera in general, and it's like on television it's like No, this is not even Black. This is just like BAME. So that's everyone who isn't like a white male, and it's like 2.2%. It has gone up from 0.8%, which was like less than one person, which is great, but it's still not great. So I feel like it's very much a case of, you know, it's like that dynamic of people like trusting BAME filmmakers to tell stories that are different from that's what's out there. I feel like if they don't put executives from a BAME background in positions of power, where I mean they can have a decision at the table for people like us as filmmakers, then nothing is going to change. It's never going to change. Like, that dynamic is just going to be the same because they feel comfortable about commissioning stuff that is very, you know, the norm and inverted commas like urban, and seeing us as a certain person on screen because that's all they know. And when you come with something different, their whole response will be like, well, it's not going to work because there's nothing like this. So it's never going to change. Because that's how they keep their jobs. They keep their jobs because they keep in a safe ground where they're not going to challenge anything that's going to be anything that's different than the stereotypes that are on screen at the moment.
And does that maybe emphasize the importance of private funding, like you mentioned, and not relying
100%.
on executives?
Think about it. So, let's go to like a dynamic like the urban music scene. Like, it's thriving at the moment. Stormzy's got a #1 album. It's a very healthy industry. That whole scene came about from independence, grime culture, wave culture, gangster rap culture. Like, that's all come from independence. Like, people just picking up a mic, selling their records, like doing their own performances, and it's built up to like a commercial image. Same with hip hop culture in the 90s. It's very reflective of what's going on now. So like, if they're not going to give you the keys to like do it, then the only way it's going to change if like we will keep on doing it independently. So that's the only way, really, because I can't really see a difference on TV, like in terms of stereotypes of like Black and Asian sort of images. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. You can tell me. Like, but I haven't seen too much of a change. I would like to see more of a change, but I feel like the more, and it's going to be changing very, very dramatically because of all these platforms like the Netflix and the Amazons and the Stars and everything else, because like content is king at the moment. So there's going to be much more places to sort of like show representation and diversity, which is great as well.
And how do you feel more generally about just that general conversation about diversity and representation? Like, have you like yourself thought of any strategies of getting more people of color behind the camera and whatnot?
Yeah, like we're always like we train people all the time. So like when we're doing productions, we always have like young people who are training in different aspects of our production, where it be like research or like writing sessions, or actors, or you know more technical elements. We're always we're very open to like trying to get as many people on board as possible to like try new skills. They might not like it, but at least they have had an opportunity to get a credit under their belt, or they've had an opportunity to sort of work on a professional production.
Cool. Any more questions? Anyone got a mic?
In terms of back to the execs, do you think there's an element of the industry trying to reinforce negative stereotypes?
Reinforce it? I don't think it's a purposeful thing. I just think it's like I I just think it's like negligence, really. I think it's like they just feel like it's comfortable to maybe commission certain, I guess, films and TV shows that show, I guess, like BAME people in a certain light, because they're kind of used to that notion of seeing us in a certain light, you know, that sort of like Nike tracksuit hoodie with a knife just behind the pocket. That's like a very strong image that's being reflected not just on film and TV, but also on publications like the Daily Mail and like every newspaper in the country. You know, like, you know, you got to think like what's the agenda. You see a lot of like black violence. Like the violence is the problem for everyone at the moment, you know, but you just see those images of like black and Asian kids. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's not on purpose, but I just feel like, you know, they're just used to writing it, and they're used to like constructing these films and TV shows.
Does anyone agree or disagree with that? Should we go to the next question?
Yeah, I got a question, but does anybody else disagree or agree with that? I don't know.
I would just quickly say, because I completely, I agree, and second where you're coming from, I don't think it's necessarily a purpose thing, like done on purpose, but at the same time, I'm also quite cynical, and I wouldn't be surprised if there is a little bit of a desire to perpetuate common stereotypes, because they know it sells as well. I think sometimes the motivation might be monetary. They just know it works.
But I guess it's hard because you got to see like shows. I guess I just read something. I don't know if it is true, but you know, like Top Boy was like one of the most watched shows in the world when it came out. Like Top Boy 3, you're going to commission another series because it's working. You know, but you're not going to be like, oh, that's a negative stereotype on certain boys, even though there's a lot of different layers within that show. But I just show like a part of London that's quite negative for like black culture as well. Even though I love the show as well, do you know what I mean? So it's kind of that hard dynamic you're torn into, and I guess that execs are very torn into. If like something's very commercial and it's working, they're not necessarily not going to kind of cut it off because it's going to make them money.
Yeah.
Do you not think it's a shame that Top Boy is like the most popular show that represents black culture in this country right now because of the stereotypes? Like, I love it as well. It's a great show. But.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like it's a hard one to say, because at the same time it's like, okay, if that show's not there, then a lot of BAME actors haven't got no work as well. So it's kind of, and it also puts them into the popular market to sort of maybe go to America and get other shows as well in this country. So it's kind of like it's a double-edged sword in effect. I think, yeah, like I always think, yeah, have those shows like Gomorrah, that shows like, you know, Naples mafia, and have the Top Boys that shows like black gangsters, but also like balance the stereotype. Maybe have some other shows that show a different side to London, do you know what I mean? And a different side to the UK and different side to like BAME culture within the United Kingdom.
And I think
I wouldn't disagree with like not making those type of shows. I think, yeah, definitely make those shows. Definitely make the blue stories. Definitely make, you know, the gangster shows that, you know, have people's heads getting blown off and stuff. You know, like it's entertainment at the end of the day, but at the same time, like have a different side to it. Balance it out so people can make the judgments like, okay, well, you know, black and Asian people actually do that as well. Okay, they can be doctors or they can be whatever, you know, but, you know, like have a balanced stereotype of like diversity. And I hate using the word diversity. I think you should really call it inclusion, you know, like make everyone feel included into like the media and like film when it comes to stereotypes on TV and film.
Yeah, and I think your question actually really opens the door to this wider conversation about representation we're talking about, because we don't necessarily question in the same way, you know, like Irish or Italian gangster movies, because we know that white people are represented in so many ways in the film industry. So I think it does tie back into the fact that we don't have those black execs, we don't have enough people of colour in order for there to be that wide representation, you know? So I think, you know, slowly but surely, the more people of colour that enter the industry, you will slowly start to see the boundaries shift.
Yeah, 100%.
Have we got any more questions?
So do you not think that the bad representation of BAME people prevent them from getting into positions that are potentially like able to help them prevent that representation, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, I think a lot of bad representation doesn't help because, like I was saying, there's a massive imbalance of representation of us on TV, film, the news, and even when we do anything that's positive, there is quite bad representation and unbalanced representation of like even our stars, musicians, sportsmen, doctors, whatever, finance people. There is very imbalanced, as you can like analyze the news for yourself and history of the news. So like, yeah, when more conversations we have, and hopefully we can sort of make these changes and sort of have more positive representation, then it will be much more easier for us to be seen in a different light as well in real life.
And just one other thing, how do you suggest that we, like, as a group of people, like BAME people, tackle this issue of inclusivity without making it seem like it's forced diversity? Yeah.
I just think it's like more collaboration. Do you know what I mean? I feel like, you know, if we can come together more and support each other more, you know, I think that's a major help. I also believe in us sort of, you know, making a point, especially in places like maybe the BBC and the BFI and Channel 4, of maybe having more execs from different backgrounds, especially like black women as well, and Asian women in these positions to sort of be able to like commission certain things and have, you know, let them have their 2 pence of saying like, look, that's not right. That's gonna upset a lot of people. You know, I think those voices aren't rarely heard in them spaces and them places, especially in the, like studios, big television companies. Even like I heard at Netflix, like one of my friends went to Netflix and he said he saw like 2 black people working there. So, you know, it's like, I think it's like really important to, you know, have people there to, you know, have those conversations when they're making these types of shows and sort of big films and smaller films and indie films and anything that's getting commissioned, because that's the way things are going to change.
Probably got time for a couple more, just a couple.
I'm not on the whole misinterpretation of BAME. I just want to get technical. So you're thinking out loud. I liked your use of really intense zoom in. And I just wanted to say what was your intention when you used a lot of close-ups? Was it to create mood? Was it to create, you know, a sense of feeling towards, or empathy towards the main character?
Yeah, I just wanted to make, I've done it for 2 reasons. Like, one, to make it feel quite claustrophobic for the character, and at the same time to make it quite intimate as well. So the times when he's with his son, it feels more intimate if it was like kind of a close-up rather than like a wider shot. So yeah, it's just like I just wanted to have that sort of intimacy with him and all of his relationships. But at the same time, those relationships almost became like a prison for him as well, because he couldn't really talk about his feelings, so you felt that.
And the music was amazing, by the way. Yeah,
it's weird. I was working with like a musician in Australia. Like, it's just random. Like, I was a big fan of his music. I heard his sound and I was like, can you make my soundtrack for the film? And then he was like, yeah, it's going to be difficult because time difference is a myth. But we were just talking at like weird hours all the time. But he's really talented. And he was in a really big band. I don't think he used his real name. I forgot, he was in a massive band. He sold like loads of platinum albums as well.
Thank you.
Anyways.
We get a question from someone who hasn't spoken yet. Yeah, let's go for it.
As somebody who's a first generation refugee who didn't grow up in the UK, essentially an invisible minority, I just wonder, like, how far does the BAME extend when you feel like you don't really fit in on the one side or the other? How do you kind of approach that without seeming to be taking a slice of a pie that might not belong to you?
Yeah, I think you're included in our boat, really. Because I don't. Where are you from, anyway?
Serbia.
Serbia, yeah. Because I don't know many Serbian UK filmmakers, or who've been commissioned. So I think, yeah, it's definitely like you're very much an underrepresented voice, and I feel like it's something that if you have an underrepresented voice, I feel like you're kind of part of that world as well, like our world of underrepresented voices, and voices that are very imbalanced.
Thank you.
No worries.
Just a quick question, because
Just super quick, please. Thank you.
in terms of filmmaking and your journey, a lot of people don't actually understand the hard work that needs to be put into it. So can you kind of give me like a brief kind of explanation on terms of what project was the hardest for you and how you overcome those challenges?
The hardest project. Yeah, there's projects that I haven't slept for 3 days. I was just working like mad ones. But I know it sounds really weird, but I think, yeah, there's... I'm trying to think. I think there's definitely like situations that I've been in that have been dangerous. I'm trying to think of like a story, like, do you know what I mean? One that's not too hectic. I think one of the like ones that was really difficult, and one that I was like really unexpected for, was I remember I was like getting into the industry, and I was like shooting all of these music videos in kind of quite rough neighborhoods in London, and everything was fine. And then I was like really proud to say to my mum and dad, I was like, look, I'm becoming a filmmaker. I can like buy my own stuff. Like, it's all good. And I remember my dad came to one shoot, right? He came to this one shoot, and we were shooting in East London, Plaistow. If you ever go down there, it was, I think it's still pretty rough, to be fair. And we were just filming, and no lie, there was like this massive gun battle just happened. Like, all these people were like shooting at the artists, and I was like, fucking hell, like, what am I gonna do? And then it calmed down, and then I remember my dad pulled me to the side, and he was just like, is this what you've been fucking doing? I said, Dad, I swear to God, I said, I've been doing this for a year and a half. This has never happened. I don't know what happened. But that was like really difficult for like 2 reasons. It was really difficult because it was like, I didn't realize it was like really dangerous in the neighborhood. And 2, it was like, it's sort of building that trust back with my family. Cause I was young at the time. I think I was only like 18 or 19. But I was just like, wow, this is really difficult for me to sort of get into now. Do you know what I mean? And sort of, you know, like when you come, I think you get it when, probably like a lot of families, but if you come from like a Jamaican family, or like, you know what I mean? Like, it's very hard to let them believe like you're gonna do this for a living. It's like, look, I've sent you to university, like, just do a fucking proper job, innit? That's what it was. And I had to literally just, I think he's still not convinced now, like, you know what I mean? Since that time. But yeah, I think that was like a really hard thing, because it was like it's a personal family thing as well that happened to me. So yeah.
Cool. And we'll just take one last one just here in the middle to the...
I just basically wanted to know, as a new person sort of entering into the industry, what sort of like practical tips or suggestions would you give someone who's, you know, I've been in the industry for about a year now, so
yeah. What kind of thing do you want to do? What do you want to get into?
So I was working for Netflix as an assistant accountant on productions, but now I want to get into producing.
Yeah.
And I've also been writing as well. So I've got connections for the accounts, like in the accounting world, in the industry, but I'm finding it somewhat challenging to get more exposure, I guess, and to know of, yes, there is screen skills, there is BFI, but it's not necessarily, I've seen there's a producer's program, but it's not necessarily for new people entering. So I know you say go out and make it, but how do I make it? That's my point. Do I have to go and do a course for a few years, which I don't want to do, because I don't believe you need to do that, given I've been on film sets and the people there don't have qualifications.
Yeah.
So
I guess on your side, you want to become like more of a producer, maybe like producer more on your side.
Yeah.
I would say, like, just reach out to as many directors as possible. Like, directors that sort of have your kind of, like, style and vision of, like, what you kind of want to make.
Okay.
You know? And, you know, have, like, projects that you think you want to make as well. Mm-hmm. And also, like, writers, mm-hmm. like, that you kind of like, or writers who you know, and maybe collab that way in terms of, like... So like, what I would suggest is, like, try and build, like, a mini team, like, from a producer standpoint, because, like, I've done it differently. I was always, like, making my films myself, so I was the writer, director, producer. I'm a guerrilla filmmaker, so I was always just doing everything. Mm-hmm. Like, that's kind of my style anyway. I'll just do it. But I think on your side, it's, like, more of a team thing. So I would, like, go and find the writers that you want to work with, find the directors, like, build your nucleus, your team. Because I've got my own technical team that I've been working with for years. Like, we sort of grew up together, and that's what.
But that's the challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
Within the industry.
Like find like a team that you feel comfortable working with, and you have the same sort of pattern of thinking. You like not like you have to like the same films, but you like the films that you want to make. You want to make this type of film. These are the type of films that I want to make, and then everyone has the same mindset.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's what I would do. Like, if I was in your position, because you just come from, like, one perspective. Yeah, like, to make things, you have to have a team. Like, whatever you have to do, you have to have a team and people around you that you trust, that believe in you, and that have got your back.
Okay.
Also, can I just add to that? Sorry. Are you from Bristol?
No.
You're not from Bristol?
Can we talk after? Is that all right?
No, yeah, I was just going to say to her, just to come to me so I can...
Okay, nice one.
There you go. Like,
sorry, earlier you said that you produce, but I just wanted to know, the word producer is so like, there's so many layers to it. How do you define your producing that you do?
Well, I guess it's kind of like organising my team, organising my actors.
Okay.
I don't produce all of my things, but, like, I do produce, like, a few of my projects as well. Say if I haven't got a budget to, like, pay a producer, then I'm going to be the producer. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to, you know, do that aspect of it. But I do work with a network of producers as well. And, you know, like, same with cinematographers, production designers, makeup artists, actors.
Cool, thank you. And I'll just mention quickly that Gary is going to be at the side here. He needs some people to fill out surveys, if that's all right, because that helps us keep making events like this and creating spaces for networking. And there is also going to be, you know, plenty of time to network and talk to Sheridan after. I just plead that you don't swamp him and give him a bit of breathing room. But yeah, thank you all for coming to this event. I don't think I've ever hosted an event with so many questions, so that's brilliant. And it is exciting to see that people are so passionate about all of these issues. But can you just join me in thanking Sheridan for coming down, please? Thank you.
No, thank you. Thanks for coming down.